hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing this evening? I just wanted to say hi and pop on here, and I'm going to let everyone else start popping on here. I am Valerie Wilson Peterson. I am with Hope Define Me, and it is Tuesday. It is Testimony Tuesday. I'm so excited to be here. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest for you. You will love her testimony. We've just been chatting a little bit about things, and it is amazing how God shows up every single time. And it's just beautiful. God is so good. So, Testimony Tuesday is actually God's show. It's his program, it's his platform. I'm just the facilitator. I am just his obedient daughter, that I do what he tells me to do. And I am honored to be able to have the opportunity to interview these different people that give their testimonies. God is so good how he brings everyone forward at just the right time for such a time as this, if you will. Testimony Tuesday came from and is branched off of Hope Define Me. And some of you may know, or some of you don't know, Hope Define Me was created by God. He told me to create this. And that happened when I went through the breast cancer journey. So Hope Defined Me is where Testimony Tuesday can be found on Facebook. It'll also be found on YouTube afterwards if you miss it, or you want to share it. YouTube by the same name, Hope Define Me. That's the YouTube channel. So this evening, I have the privilege and the honor of letting my friend, Sarah Faulkner, share with you her testimony. And she is with me right now. And I'm going to read you her bio real quick because it's just a good one. I love it. Sarah Faulkner is the jewelry artist behind Milk Velvet Pearls, which are amazing. Notice the earrings she's wearing. She uses the symbolism of pearl to express the beauty born from struggle and the radical transformation of her life by faith. She has walked through the opiate addiction and recovery with her son. Now he's 6 years clean. She survived a brain aneurysm rupture and a subarachnoid hemorrhage stroke and a second brain aneurysm and surgery. She shares her stories of struggle as evidence of the power of prayer and is on a mission to encourage others to draw nearer to God. Sarah is the mother of 2 adult children. She and her husband, David, make their home in Safety Harbor, Florida. And please help me welcome Sarah Faulkner. Thank you for being here. I am just in love with you.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much. I am so pleased to be here.
Oh, once upon a time, not too long ago, maybe a month or so, you were going to be on and things happened. But you know what? It is a perfect time for you to be here now because there's so much to be thankful for in this week of Thanksgiving. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. We were delayed a few times, but with Thanksgiving right around the corner, the gratitude that I have in my heart and the things that God has taught me these past few years, I just think today's the perfect day. So
I think so.
thank you very much.
Oh, I'm thankful to have you. I'm honored. Let me tell you what. So I know you, but some of the people watching right now, they don't really know you. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about Sarah. They can understand where you're at.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was born and raised in rural Vermont in a small little cow town on the Canadian border in Lake Champlain. I spent a short period of time living in Colorado. I went back to school in Vermont, and then I was in Detroit for a little while, and then I made my home in Tampa, Florida as a single mother, and I was working in the construction management industry. My background was in civil engineering when I met my husband and married him 21 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And so 21 years ago, we got married, and he was a professional engineer working for another company at that time, and he wanted to go out on his own. And so when our daughter was 3 months old, we founded our own company, Faulkner Engineering Services. And then together, I helped him build that company until about 10 years ago when I started making jewelry. And so that's where many of you know me from, my company, Milk Velvet Pearls. And so that's what led me here to you today.
And beautiful jewelry. For those of you, you can find her on Facebook too, Milk Velvet Pearls, and she'll show her pieces on there. They're stunning, original works of art for sure. They're gorgeous. But we have so much to be thankful for. Just tell us a little bit I know that with the jewelry, that was kind of a side, like almost like a caveat, if you will, to some things that were going on in your life. But when did your son, tell us a little bit about your son, because I know you helped him through the addictions and also the rehabilitation that he went through.
Well, I think I need to start a little bit prior to that.
Okay.
In about 2008, I saw a live stream at my church. It was Beth Moore, Delight Yourself in the Lord. And I was sitting at that live stream listening to her preach that weekend. And it was all about how you should delight yourself in the Lord in good times and bad times. And I remember thinking, I can delight myself in the Lord over dirty laundry or a dirty house or a husband who's late home for dinner. But if I ever had a child that was sick, I don't know that I could delight myself in the Lord.
Oh.
Um, and so I have been struggling with this verse since 2008, but through my journey, I have realized that that verse is what has carried me through, and it all goes back to then. But my son and his addiction, it didn't come to my attention until he was 20 years old.
Mm.
But it actually started, it was beginning in about 2008. It was beginning in about 2008. He started experimenting in elementary school. When he was in 6th grade, he got into a lot of trouble. We had a conflict in our home that left me broken, and I completely surrendered myself to Jesus. I surrendered myself to Jesus. I went to a Bible study. I learned things that I had never heard before. Um, I I I came to know a group of women who I began calling Bible study mamas. And those women prayed for me. And over the course of about 9 months, I saw my whole life change. I saw my whole life change, and I realized that I had strength and hope and beauty that I had never known before. And I saw how God had used the struggle to make me stronger. And so at that point, I wanted to write a book about it. Then I wanted to name it A Million Miles from Where I Started. I just wanted people to know that God was real, because I came from a dysfunctional family. My mother was very severely mentally ill. She had left when my sister and I were young. I just felt like there was a lot of pain that the world had, that I had had, and that I had found relief and peace and joy in God, and that He was real, and I wanted people to know about it. And so I tried to write a book. I spent a couple years trying to write a book, and then I couldn't write a book. And then one afternoon, when I was spending time with my daughter looking through my jewelry box, she came upon my great grandmother's pearls. And we were talking about them, and she was asking questions about how they were formed. And it turned into a little science lesson. And I explained about the grit and the sand and the pearl and the covering and this whole little process. And then she stopped for a minute and she was like, "Mama, pearls are like people. Bad things make them prettier on the inside." And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make pearl jewelry. I never wore jewelry. I wasn't a girly girl. I didn't know how to make jewelry. I had never made jewelry before. But I just decided that I was going to use the symbolism of the pearl to make pearl jewelry and to share my testimony that way. And so that's what got me on the track for making jewelry. My son's struggle was really kind of up and down, because he was in 8th grade when that happened. And so he moved to Boston to live with his dad.
Mm.
And then we brought him, or his dad brought him, to different doctors for evaluation and to kind of see what was going on and get help. And they diagnosed him after a very long, like 8-hour intensive evaluation with ADHD. And so I thought I just wasn't understanding ADHD. And so I poured myself into learning about ADHD and helping him with ADHD, and then he was medicated for ADHD, which seemed to work like a miracle for several years. So we were on this journey throughout his high school thinking he had ADHD. Drugs never crossed my mind,
Wow.
ever.
Like, especially at such a young age. I mean, when you like sixth grade or something, you're like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah, I didn't find out any of this until the education program at his rehab when he was 20 years old. He went through a timeline and he brought us back to when he was in 5th grade and explained what and how everything happened.
Isn't that amazing? Amazing. But so now you walked through that with him, okay? And that's gripping. I mean, as a parent, as a mama, that's has to be the most difficult thing to walk through.
Well, I had the shame of it. I had the grief and loss and disappointment that came with it. But the thing that I was most upset about was that I had no idea. I had no idea at all. I had heard about denial, and I thought maybe people that were in denial were just pretending that things were okay. Um, I had no idea. I really literally had no idea. And when I found out, I was so upset. I was so upset that I hadn't recognized the signs, that I didn't know what could be done in this day and age with the dark web and computers and being able to pass drug tests. And I'm old school. I'm old school. I wasn't looking for the right things. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like if I could share what I had learned and what we had gone through and maybe prevent someone else from going through it, then I was all for it.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. I remember when we were talking, yesterday we chatted for a little bit, and when you mentioned that one of the, I don't want to say the strangest, but one of the things that was the most maybe astonishing for you was what happened with friendships. Like people who, you're going through this and walking through this dark time, and people are falling out of your life.
But people can't understand. They just can't. I used to be one of those people. I used to read the articles in the newspaper about drug addicts doing horrific things, and I just, what I thought? I thought, where are their parents?
Mm.
I thought, where are their parents? Like, or their parents didn't do a good job loving them, or I don't know what I thought. I mean, I don't want to say that I had it coming to me, but I was really judgmental. I was really judgmental. I didn't think things like that. I didn't think drug addiction happened in homes like ours. I didn't think it happened to people like me. I had been trying to be like the world's best mother from the time that I found out that I was pregnant. I didn't know. I didn't know about addiction. I didn't know about genetics. I didn't know. There was just so much that I didn't know.
Oh, and you can't blame yourself because you didn't know. You know,
No,
you
I know.
you didn't know. Was there a trigger or something that started this for your son? Was it the divorce? Is that what maybe this happened for him that made him turn and start experimenting, if you will?
Well, his dad and I never married.
Oh,
His
okay.
his dad and I separated when I was 4 months pregnant.
Okay.
So I was an unwed single mother.
Okay. And that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay.
And that was another thing that I thought would never happen to me. Another thing that I had been very judgmental about in my early days. But when I was going through this, especially when he hit 20 years old and he got into trouble, and the addiction came to light and became very, very clear, I was filled with terror
Mm,
every moment that I was awake. And I remember at night just scrolling through the books on Amazon, just looking for something that I could read, just looking for something that would give me hope. And I felt like I couldn't find anything. I
mm,
felt like everything that I was reading was just telling like awful, horrible stories. And the thing is that addiction is awful and it's horrible, and your kids do heartbreaking things, and the pain is almost unspeakable. Just you lose them. You lose them into an illness. It's an illness. It's a sickness. It's an illness, and you lose them into it, and it's so heartbreaking because people don't understand that it's like a death, but they're still living,
mhm.
and it's like you cannot do anything about it.
Right.
You're absolutely, totally, completely 100% powerless.
And as a mom, or as a parent, that has to be, you lay awake at night, are they okay? Are they alive? Are they dead? Or what's going on? What's going on with my child? What did I miss? How did I miss this? And, it's probably easy to blame ourselves. How did I miss this? And just, I can imagine that the, the ache, the heaviness, the weight of everything that you had to carry during that time had to have been just difficult.
Yeah, it was crushing. It was crushing. I prayed all day long just to be able to function, just to be able to like get dressed in the morning and walk around. I had to pray constantly. I felt like I had like a bazooka sized hole just blown through my body, and I just had to walk around with like my insides blasted out of me. It was just, it's very lonely. It's very frightening. It's loaded with grief. It's very,
Mm.
very difficult.
Were you ever able to find anyone to talk to about it, or a group, or anything to support?
Well, you know what? I felt very isolated. I felt very alone. I felt
Mm,
shunned and shamed. And whether that was true or not, I don't know. But that was my feeling about it. And the good part about that is that I went to God. I went to God and he helped me. I started praying all night. I started writing out I started writing out pages and pages and pages and pages, just copying prayers from Power of a Praying Parent.
mm.
I just copied like hundreds of pages until about like 4 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And then I would go to bed. And then I would wake up and I would start praying, and I just had to pray constantly to get through it.
I believe that. Now, you were telling me when we spoke a little bit that there was not like, is it like an Al-Anon, or like a group, a support group that would meet?
Well, I went all in on learning about addiction because I wanted to save my son, and I thought I was the only one that could do it.
Mhm.
I thought I was the only one that loved him enough. I thought I was the only one that I thought I was going to do it. And
Mm.
so I was reading all the books. I lined up the rehab. I went to the Al Anon meetings and the Nar-Anon meetings and the family group meetings. And I was doing all this stuff because I hope you're understanding my emphasis in the I. Like
I,
I thought I was going to do it. That's not my job. I learned I need to put Jesus first. I need to put Jesus first. I just had a moment where I realized that his addiction was in part due to the way that I put him on a pedestal.
mm,
We're not supposed to put our kids on a pedestal.
mm-mm.
We're supposed to put Jesus on the pedestal. And so that was a hard lesson for me to learn. But the day that I learned it, I was in my dining room. I collapsed to the floor. I felt this crushing pain, like I can't live with this knowing. And then suddenly I had a wash of peace come over me that I knew was Jesus, that I knew was forgiveness. I felt like he was forgiving me for all the mistakes I had ever made and for all the things that I had done in love that probably I shouldn't have done. I felt like no matter what happened, I was going to be okay. And I felt like I just needed to let the Lord fight for me. I felt like I needed this to be between Jonah and his God. And I felt like I needed to trust.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that was in about let me see, like October of 2017. And my son's recovery after that point skyrocketed. His recovery skyrocketed. I had been battling this back pain for like 7 years at that point. Like my back pain started to go away. All these things started to happen when I let go of trying to fix my son and I put it in God's hands. And so from that point onward, I mean, I still had moments. I still had moments where I felt like he had relapsed, or like I didn't know where he was, or I wasn't quite sure, or I was jealous of other people's kids, or something where God needed to minister me and continue to minister to me. But after that point in the dining room, like we were on our way. I had my priorities straight. Like I needed to put Jesus first. And so, um, yeah, so like 2017, 2018, 2019, I was so grateful that we had been through what we had been through because my relationship with him had been restored. I felt like my relationship with my husband had been restored. I felt like our family had healed. I felt like we could be honest and truthful in our home and we could talk about things that we didn't talk about before. And I felt like I had a brand new life. I felt like I had a brand new life and I wanted God to use me. I wanted him to use me and our story to help other people. And I remember on October 7th, 2019, I wrote in my journal, God use me for your glory, for your purpose, just use me. And then I went and I swam laps at the country club. And then I came home and I got in the shower and I had a brain aneurysm rupture that same day.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And I
And,
knew it. I knew it when it happened. I it it was
and you're thinking, why? Right? You're thinking,
oh no, I was thinking that something was trying to kill me and that I had never I was just trying to pray through the pain because it was so excruciating. There was like
oh,
no thoughts running through my head except how painful and excruciating it was, and that something was trying to kill me.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You know, I can't, I mean, you hear aneurysms, you know people that have had them. I don't understand them. Can you explain a little bit about like what they are and what causes them or anything from your knowledge?
Well, so a brain aneurysm or an aneurysm is when when the walls of an artery weaken and part of it balloons out.
Okay.
So my right internal carotid artery had an aneurysm on it that burst. I
Mm,
had no symptoms, I had no warning, I had no nothing when it happened. And so I was in the shower when it happened, and I felt like I got hit on the back of the head with like a board or maybe a lightning bolt. I just felt an intense hit of pain on the back of my head. And I immediately started to vomit. The vomiting made the head pain worse. The head pain made the vomiting worse. Then I started to lose my vision. I was losing my balance. I felt like something was trying to kill me. And so I started praying, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and the devil will flee, over and over again. And each time I prayed that, the pain would lessen like just a smidge, like just the tiniest amount where I could get a breath in. And I had my phone in the bathroom because I was planning to listen to a podcast. And so I was able to get to the phone and I dialed my husband and I said, I just had a brain aneurysm or something. You need to come home. And so my husband's office is in the Brandon area. We live in Safety Harbor. And so he was like, okay, honey, I'll be home in a second. And I laid down on the floor. I was naked out of the shower. I was on the floor. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't do anything. I was throwing up. I had the head pain. And I kept telling myself, okay, he'll be here in a minute. Even though I knew it wasn't going to be a minute because his office is in Brandon.
mm,
Um, but the thing is that he had seen me throw up a lot before because I had been having all kinds of digestive liver issues.
mm.
And he had never ever heard of a brain aneurysm before. And so when he came in, he saw me on the floor throwing up and he saw some strawberries on the counter in the kitchen. And so he thought I had food poisoning. And so he came in and he was like, honey, if I take you to the hospital, you're probably going to have to wait for a couple hours in the ER. Why don't you just clean up and get into bed? Okay, I looked in the mirror. I looked like hell and I couldn't stop vomiting. I could not stop vomiting. And so I was like, okay, I mean, that's a good idea. I think I'll just take my bucket and go to bed.
My bucket.
And so that's what I did.
Oh my goodness.
I went and got into bed. And that was a Monday morning. And so my husband and my daughter, they like took care of each other that week. And I would just lay in bed. And when I was awake, I'd pray because there was a lot of pain and I was still vomiting. And then I would fall asleep. And so I would just wake up and vomit and pray and then go back to sleep. And then every afternoon, I would rally and go pick up my daughter at school.
Holy cow.
So I would drive to Skycrest Christian School over on Belcher and Drew
Yeah.
to pick up my daughter at school. And then Oh no, I was going to Calvary. I was going to Calvary at that time. But yeah,
I'm amazed you were functioning. I figured you'd be in the hospital by now.
I
Oh
mean,
my goodness.
God just gave me like supernatural powers. But people don't understand when I get so adamant about this. Like people don't live through this, and I was driving around like he was keeping me alive,
Mhm.
keeping me alive. And so Thursday, actually, I had an appointment with my doctor in Safety Harbor, and she had sold her practice, and so there was a new woman there, and so like I don't know. I told them I had been throwing up a lot, and they told me to go to the ER or go to urgent care. And so I went to urgent care and told them, I had a headache and I'd been throwing up a lot, and they gave me an IV and sent me home. And so Friday, I tried to rally and I couldn't. And I had a chiropractor appointment. And so my husband drove me to the chiropractor. And I got there and I walked in and he looked at me and he said, I am not touching you. Turn around, go to the ER. You look like you have spinal meningitis or something.
Oh my.
And so I did. I left his office. We went straight to Me's Countryside. They brought me right in. They did a CT scan. They saw the aneurysm rupture. They saw the blood on the brain. And they just bang, 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 put me in the ambulance and sent me to Morton Plant for emergency surgery.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And that was the arachnoid surgery, right?
Well, so subarachnoid is just a location in the brain
Oh,
where
okay.
the blood was. So that's just the area between the brain and the skull. That area, I guess maybe it had puddled back there or something. I just remember it being so painful. It was really, really, really painful. So
And-
I was having vasospasms at that time, which means that the brain tissue was starting to die.
Oh, wow. Because that's what happens, right? When the blood touches the brain tissue.
Yeah, blood on the brain is not good.
Oh no. Oh no. And so you've been like this for a week. So then you go in and you have surgery.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And your husband's feeling bad saying it was food poisoning. And
Oh God, yes. Oh my Lord, yes. I think he still feels bad about that, but we've been working through it. So, so that I remember hearing the sirens in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, but then I don't remember anything for about a week or so after that. And then I just remember my neurosurgeon coming in every day and crossing his arms and leaning against the wall and shaking his head and saying to me, people don't live through what you live through. People don't live. And so the the aneurysm was actually really big. The neck of it, like if you can imagine an artery with a balloon coming out of it, the neck of the balloon was the neck of the aneurysm, and that was really, really big.
wow.
And so my surgeon made a game time decision not to go through my skull, but to go up through my femoral artery and to pack it with layers of coils. They did a coil embolism surgery. And then also in his unconventional way, and Baycare had just brought him in as an aneurysm specialist, which was really good for me. But
Mhm.
Also in his unconventional wisdom, he did not allow me to drink water for the 21 days that I was in there. So they were watching me for stroke. They were checking me for vasospasms. There's this real dangerous 10 to 14 day period after an aneurysm rupture where it's really dangerous and a high percentage of people die. And so they were elevating my sodium levels, they were elevating my blood pressure. I was so thirsty and I couldn't drink water, and they couldn't give me anything for the pain, and I couldn't sleep all night long, and I just like, it was so painful. It was so painful, and I just kept looking for Jesus. I wanted to die. I wanted to die. It was
Oh,
so, it was so painful. I wanted to die, and my husband would come every single day, and he would sit beside me every single day. At night, I would just watch the clock and just wait for him to come in the morning and to sit beside me. I tried to pray, but like the prayers weren't really working because the pain just was so much. And he said, I've already said this, but he just talks about how I kept saying that I wanted to die.
mm,
I remember I have this thing that I can do where I actually visualize this movie scene from The Risen,
mhm.
where Jesus is talking with his disciples after he's risen from the cross. Anyhow, I can usually picture Jesus's face from this scene in the movie. And so I was in the hospital and I was trying to picture Jesus's face like in that movie, and I could not do it. But what I saw instead was Jesus in my room wearing combat boots with his back to me, like he was a general in the army, like he had everything all under control. And then I just had this peace. And I don't think I said it again after that.
Wow. God is amazing how he shows up. Isn't it amazing?
And then the chaplain, this is a funny story. The chaplain came in to see me and he said, do you have a home church? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, would you like me to call your pastor? Now, I go to Calvary Baptist Church, and our pastor is Pastor Willie Rice. And I said, no, Pastor Willie is really busy. Like we're doing he's planting all these. I don't think I said all this, but I was thinking all of this. Like Pastor Willie's really busy. Like we're planting all these churches and we're doing all these things. And no, don't call him. But anyway, he just placated me, or I don't know what he did. I think he really did call Calvary, because I had people from Calvary coming in to pray with me. I had doctors on staff at Morton Plant Hospital that go to church at Calvary coming in and praying for me.
Oh, wow.
I had an army of women, of friends, and then friends of friends, like people that I don't even know. They were sending gifts. They were helping my daughter. They were sending food to my house. They were coming in to see me. They were praying for me. And as that was happening, I could feel that. I could feel the prayers of other people. Like when I was trying to do it, it wasn't really working, but I could feel their prayers.
Yes. Isn't that an amazing feeling? You can feel
It was so amazing. It
it's
was
like
like
lifting.
there was an army. I felt like there was an army,
And there was.
and there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I just got goosebumps on that one too. That is so beautiful. So then you went through all of that, and I love the part where you saw him and he was
Yeah.
under control, everything's under control, which gave you peace.
Hmm.
So then what happened?
So day after day after day after day, I'm in the hospital.
Mhm.
21 days, and every single day my doctor's coming in, and every single day I'm asking him if I can go home. And he was really adamant that I not drink water.
Right.
And there was a little, I've never told this to anybody before in a podcast, but there was a little episode. There was a little episode in the hospital where I tried to bribe the nurses to give me some water. I offered them $1,000 for a glass of water. And I guess they told my surgeon. And so he came in and he was very upset. And he's like, I I heard I heard that you offered some money. Do you have this money? And I was like, I will get it. I'm so thirsty. I'm just so thirsty. Um, but I think that he kept me in the hospital a little longer because of that, because he really did not want me to drink water. And after 21 days, I had to bargain and plead with him and agree not to drink water for 7 more days after I got home. They were very concerned about me diluting like the electrolytes in my brain or the sodium levels or something. And so it took me a long time to get home, but all the time that I was in the hospital, it was so difficult being there. I had this idea that when I got home, like everything's going to be all better. I thought if I could just get home, like get this catheter out, get into my own bed, get all these needles out of me, and be home, that everything's going to be fine.
Mhm.
I wasn't prepared for the long recovery that was ahead of me. I wasn't prepared for all the things that I was going to have to learn how to do. I wasn't prepared for not being able to dig my heels in and like persevere with willpower, because you can't do that with a brain injury. You can't dig your heels in, and you can't persevere. You just can't.
Mm.
I came home and I tried to work and I tried to like drink some coffee and get some things done. And I wound up in bed for 3 days, like throwing up with nausea and a headache. I brought home the headache. I brought home the nausea. I, I, I went into a deep depression when
Mm.
I got home. I, uh, I was still, I was still wearing the clothes that I had worn to the hospital on October 11th, because I wore them to the hospital and then I wore them home from the hospital, and then I wore them every single day when I was home from the hospital because I couldn't change my clothes. I was afraid to go into the bathroom. My hair was greasy. I mean, I just looked horrendous, and I kept thinking like, God, why did you do this to me? I have been trying to be a champion for you. I have been trying to tell people about you. I have been trying to be a good person. I don't understand why you would do this to me. And I don't understand. I just don't understand. And I didn't know if I was ever going to have my life back. My doctor kept saying that I shouldn't have lived. I shouldn't be alive. Like, most people have brain damage. Most people have permanent deficits. Most people have problems. And so I didn't know what my life was going to be like. And I got really depressed. It took me, I couldn't, I had trouble reading. I had trouble with conversations. I had trouble, you don't really realize how much you're thinking until you have like a brain injury, and every time you have a thought, it hurts to think. And so I had been trying to read, I had been trying to read my Bible, I had been like trying to do things, and a friend of mine sent me this book called Goliath Must Fall by Louis Giglio.
Mhm.
And so I was reading a chapter, or actually I was reading a couple paragraphs. I was reading a couple paragraphs at a time. But that day I was reading about how in First Corinthians, Paul writes about the thorn in his side and how God gave him that thorn because in his weakness, God's power was made perfect.
Mhm.
And so I got this thought in my head like, wow, maybe, actually, it wasn't me. getting the thought in my head. It was God putting the thought in my head. But the thought was, maybe I'm thinking about this aneurysm business all wrong. Maybe instead of feeling sorry for myself, maybe I should look at this as having access to a greater and deeper power. Maybe God is showing me that I have access to a greater and deeper power here. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to believe that. I'm going to believe that. I'm going to believe that his grace is sufficient. And I'm going to believe that I have access to a greater and deeper power. And if Jesus heals me, I'm going to tell everybody. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm here. And that's why I'm writing my book. That's why I talk about this all day long to everyone who will hear me. Like, Jesus, he has healed me. But since then, he's healed everything else. He has healed every single part of my being. He has healed every cell in my body. He has remade my whole life. He has remade, my priorities are completely different. The way I take care of myself is completely different. The way I live and worship and think and do everything is different now. And I just want to shout it on the rooftops all day long.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing. I mean, amazing. Your testimony is so amazing from everything that you've walked through and how the tangible presence of the Lord was with you the whole time. He's hearing everything you're praying and everything you're asking and talking, and he is with you and working and going through this whole thing with you. And
That scripture, do not be conformed to the world. I held on to that because I had every reason to be discouraged. I had every reason to be discouraged and hopeless and broken and done. I really did.
yeah,
And nobody would have blamed me for it either. I mean,
yeah.
people would have said, oh, poor you, whatever. I mean, because I'm not dismissing the care of people, but what I'm saying is that God's way is so much better. Like, don't fall for that. Don't believe it. Don't believe the world. Believe him. Believe literally what he says in the Bible, because those scriptures have come true. They have all come true for me.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful because at any point in time, like you say, you could have given up.
Oh yeah.
You could have changed your entire mindset, and that truly would have changed your outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But you were so steadfast on, I'm still going to look at God. I'm still going to keep my focus on Jesus. I'm still going, and praying and praying. And even through the pain of everything, you kept on staying focused. The prize, stay focused on the prize. But you know what? At any time, it could have changed for you. And God knew that. God saw how you were going through this. And I love it. I love how he blessed you. When
Yeah.
you go through things like this, wouldn't you agree, Sarah? The outcome, as horrific as it was, if you had a chance now to go back and change it and not go through it, would you?
No, I'd go through it all over again. I'd go through it all over again. And then I sort of almost kind of did go through it again, because 6 months later, I went back for a checkup and they found that the aneurysm had grown back and it was bigger. I mean, just in case one aneurysm wasn't enough, I got a second one.
Portion.
And then my doctor told me that the surgery was going to be more difficult than the first one, and that I would need to be on blood thinners for a week prior to surgery. And so for a whole week, I had to walk around with an aneurysm in my brain, knowing that it was there, knowing that it had ruptured once before, and knowing the pain that it had caused once before, and knowing that I shouldn't have lived the first time. And so that whole week was, I don't even know if I have the words to accurately describe that. I made peace with God that week. The first few days I was like, oh no, I can't go through this over again. I know I can't withstand. I can't endure that pain again. And so for the first few days I kept telling myself like, I can't. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, you know, God helped me through Jonah's addiction. He helped us into recovery. He helped me through that. He helped me through the aneurysm rupture. He helped me through hemorrhaging for 5 days. He helped me get all my abilities back. Maybe what I should do is just trust him. And so I decided, okay, like if you want me to go through it again, I will. Whatever you want for me is what I will do. And I will go and I will be grateful. And so I prayed like crazy, obviously.
Yeah.
I did say a goodbye. I said a goodbye to my son's dad and just thanking him for my son's life in case I didn't make it, because I felt like that was a unresolved issue in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that I was ready. I went and I prayed circles around the hospital. I had about 100 people praying for me on the day of the surgery. And although it got delayed and then postponed and then delayed, I was supposed to go into surgery at like noon on a Friday, and I didn't go in until like 5 o'clock that night.
Mm.
My surgeon came to me and he's like, okay, are you ready? And I was like, I don't know. Do you want to wait until maybe you're fresh in the morning? A little late, like
Like
5 o'clock.
Monday?
5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon to go in and do a really complicated brain surgery on me. But he goes, I've had a lot of training. I'll be okay. And I was like, well, actually, and you've got about 100 people praying for you. And he put his hands on me and he bowed his head and he smiled and he said, I could use the prayers. But I remember I went into surgery. I woke up in recovery. It was dark. I kind of opened my eyes and looked over at the nurse. And I was like, wait, I think I'm okay. Like, did I have a stroke? I don't think I had a stroke. And so I said to the nurse, I'm like, is it over? Did I go? And he goes, yeah. It's like, surgeon just came out. He said the process was easier. The surgery was easier than he thought it was going to be. And he just called your husband and said, you're good. And so I went to my room and I just like praised Jesus all night long. And then they came in and checked me about 8 o'clock the next morning. And they said, you're good, go home.
Holy cow.
And so, yeah, like 10 o'clock in the morning, I was on my way home. And then, let me see.
But God, only
He
God.
checked me a year later. And the artery was 100% healed. 100% brand new. I have a brand new mind. I have a brand new life. I have a brand new mind. I have a brand new artery. I have a brand new everything. Literally.
Literally.
Literally. Beauty born from struggle.
Yes. Yes. Beauty born from struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. You know, if you could say something to encourage, if you could give someone watching right now some encouragement, where they're like feeling like they're at the end of their rope, what would you say to them? What would you what nugget could you give them?
There's that scripture about having faith as small as a mustard seed, and that faith that small can move mountains. I would say, because I know I've been there, when I got the phone call when Jonah was in trouble, I had a mustard seed of faith. And God can do a lot with a mustard seed of faith. So if you have just a little teeny bit, I would give him the mustard seed.
That is perfect. That is perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Oh my goodness. I can't even, if I let myself think a little bit too much, I'm gonna start bawling because this has just been a beautiful testimony of God's faithfulness.
He is good. He's really, really good. All you have to do is believe it.
Yeah.
That's it. Just
Yeah.
believe it.
And this week of Thanksgiving, so much to be thankful for, so
Yeah.
much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You know, things happen in life, good, bad, and in between, but there's always something to be thankful for.
Yeah, I think so too. And then there's that verse, all things work for the good of those who love God.
Called
I love that verse. Whatever is happening to you, it's happening for you. It's not happening to you. God's plans are good. It doesn't seem like it sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it when you're losing like a child or your own life. But he's faithful and he's good and he won't leave you for a second.
True. And he will use everything for good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of this Testimony Tuesday and for sharing your testimony. Thank you so much for being real raw and vulnerable and just beautiful all at the same time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone that would love to connect with Sarah, you can find her on Facebook, Sarah Faulkner, or under the Milk Velvet Pearls, which beautiful jewelry. And I know you're working on that book, girl.
I am working on the book. Yes, it's time to do a plug for The Making of a Pearl, which is my miracle memoir
Yes.
currently in the works. I am hoping to have the manuscript completed and in my publisher's hands by February, which would put it like in bookstores in October-ish. But just the way I had to learn how to make jewelry, I'm having to learn how to be a writer. So please pray for me to come up with the words and put it down on paper in an organized and cohesive way.
Definitely. We will keep that in prayer. We're excited to see it hit the bookshelves too. And let us know so that way I can post it on the page, Hope to Find Me, so that way people can see it and run and get it.
I will.
Love it. Thank you for being a part.
Thank you, Valerie.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And everyone that's watching, thank you for joining and watching. Please like and share this video. It'll be up and running in a few weeks on YouTube channel of Hope Divine Me. And just like and share it. We appreciate that so much. And if you have a testimony that you think you want to share that God really wants you to have out there in the world, please just message me on Facebook and I'm happy to talk with you about it. And I'm Valerie Wilson Peterson with Hope Divine Me. And thank you again. It was an honor having Sarah Faulkner with us. So thank you, Sarah.
Bye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. So much to be thankful for.
Okay.
Bye, Sarah.